Hello and welcome to the MRR Secrets podcast. I'm your host, Vianney Wilson. You can call me V. I'm the Master of Shadows here. And with us, we have Lucas Rubix, who 6 months ago or so abandoned pure high-ticket coaching to start a brand new membership offer in a brand new space with zero audience and zero credibility in that space beforehand. And he's managed to grow it to over 30K per month in recurring revenue using organic only. In this conversation, we're going to get into why this all happened and most importantly, how it happened. Let's get into it.
Let's go. Thank you. Thanks, man. It was a year and a half ago. I abandoned the high ticket space, and then in 6 months we built it. So that was about a year and a half ago. I said I'm done with this. I could explain why later. And then when it comes to the recurring, we are growing right now. I just did our KPIs for tomorrow at 12% a week. So it's just like it's almost growing too fast. Where I'm like, we don't want to ruin the client experience. Let's tone this down. But we're getting probably 40 members a week, 30 to 40 members a week, and our target is 1,000 members by the end of the year.
That's absolutely savage, and that's without.
We
without
just
ads,
started running
organic
ads
right?
on Twitter because the crypto space very difficult to run ads on any other platform.
Sure.
I can't track the exact conversion, so I actually don't know if they're working. But we're launching retargeting ads tomorrow because we've built up enough pixel audience that we can start retargeting. We've got hundreds of testimonials, so we're just going to hit people with testimonials and get the believers to come try us out. So, yeah,
that's cool. That's awesome. So let's pull this back. Right, we've got so much exciting stuff to talk about. I really want to pick your brains about loads of stuff, but take me back to what you were saying before. It was in the high ticket space. What made you say this isn't something that I'm aligned with anymore? I want to move into a different model.
Not to sound. I like to keep my feet grounded and use logic, but logic sometimes fails you. At some point, you just surrender, you give up, and so I would say God spoke, or my intuition or my internal guidance system said, I mean, just to be honest, I don't think I was making the impact that I really wanted to make, and I may have been making a lot of money, but I had a realization. We were in the entrepreneurial space that when I actually got honest, I was like 95% of these clients we take, they're not going to succeed, and we're taking their money, and we're taking big chunks of money to teach things and to like give them everything we can. But there was a part of me that was like, 8 grand, 12 grand, 18 grand is a lot for people. And some people don't even know if they want to be entrepreneurs. And so they're joining this excited and hyped. Awesome. And then in a month or two, they're having a realization that maybe this isn't what I want. And so I was kind of getting, and I've had that experience where I join stuff. I mean, I have an ability to make money whenever I need to, but I've joined $30,000 things. And within 2 weeks, I was like, this is crap. And I just move on. Like it wasn't like, most of us entrepreneurs have that mentality. But
yeah.
And so there was that. 2, it was the sales team and the constant never-ending grind of sales, and I just started losing the passion for serving people, and it all became about meetings on numbers and sales and trying to hit certain metrics.
Right.
And that got boring. I was like, "Are we building a corporation here?" And am I gonna be the very thing I hated? Are we becoming that? Corporate America, firing people on performance, blah blah blah. And 3, when and of course you can cut this if you like, but when COVID happened, I was living in the city, left the city because I had my own opinions on it, and then we left the country because Canada had mass lockdowns, and if you weren't the V word, you were stuck in Canada. So we left 2 days before they closed the borders, moved to Mexico, and in Mexico, my life just turned upside down. Where I didn't have my office, I couldn't be the high performer, put 10 hours in the office every day. My structure just blew out the window, and I kind of started looking around and realizing I'm missing the joy of being here in Mexico. All I'm doing is working, trying to run a team, and what for? And I think I just had the realization where I built a business that no longer served me and wasn't aligned with the lifestyle I wanted to build. So the decision was pretty easy to make at that point, and I guess the rest was history. But walking away from 60 to 80 to 120 grand a month in sales was difficult because I thought that's all I wanted. Like literally, dude, when I was 25 and I set off in entrepreneurship, I met someone making 100 grand a month, and I'm like, that's what I want. And then when I did it 7 years later, took me longer than most of these internet guys claim, but it took me about 7 years. I was more depressed at that point than I was, and that's when I was like, "Wow." Like, if
Something needs to change.
and beyond that, I think if you're fear-based, we could get into this later, if you have fear around money, I've realized that if you have none, you'll just be afraid that you don't have any, and if you have a ton of it, you'll be afraid you'll lose it, and if you have more of it, you'll be afraid you don't know how to invest it, and I just started looking in the mirror, and I was like, "You got some you claim you do great content and you help people, but look in the mirror and, like, there are parts of you that are broken, and there's parts of you that need healing," and I just needed the space to do that, and so I thought, "What's the best business model I can think of so we can keep money coming in through the door, but that maybe I could have my time back so I could discover who I am?"
I love that, and I'm just gonna jump in it. So much of what you've said is what I think. Truthfully, if most people that are in the high ticket coaching slash consultancy game, most people to take a moment to step back and really think about it and talk about it honestly, we all feel that, or we all have felt it, right? The moments of, I was happier doing 10K a month as a solopreneur and I had less work than now we're doing 50K a month and our team
Yeah,
is bloated. And where's all the money going that I'm
yeah,
making anyway? And on top of that, I'm now responsible for all these other people. I can't enjoy being in the moment because I'm constantly stressed about numbers, just like what you were saying before. And you're right. I think this is the model that was being taught from like maybe 2013
and
to
I'm guilty of it too.
2018,
I
19. People
fully
were
believed
all
it,
about
so,
this.
like, I've been a proponent of
Hey,
it.
everyone, right? And we all went in it and we all did it. And then we all went, oh my God, I'm actually really unhappy. Right. And so that was a pivotal moment for you. And I think this is why these kind of conversations are so crucial, because all of us are asking us the same question. How do we step out of that game? How do we play a game where we could be in Mexico and we could have a more leveraged approach to service and we can serve more people and we can do that kind of stuff. So that's why this conversation is really awesome. So that was the moment for you. And I was reading through your sales letter, which is amazing. And we'll have links for all that stuff below here, right? So anyone who wants to work with Lucas, being in his various containers, all those links will be below this anyway. And we'll talk about that at the end of the video, how you can join and all that stuff anyway. But it's really, really good. And so what I want to ask you is, when you went into the financial side of things with, at the time, zero audience, what was that like? Abandoning the ship that was working and jumping into a new
Yeah, I'll be
challenge, a new
honest,
space?
and this is the biggest mistake I made, and then I see this pattern happening with people doing it, is we cling to what we know typically because there's safety there. So I remember we ran, it wasn't called Crypto Labs when we launched it. We called it we branded Crypto Labs. I forget what the program was called now. Damn it. It was like a year and a half ago, but time moves so fast. Anyways, we did an
Right.
8-week program to teach DeFi because I was so in love with it. I've been doing it for a few years, and like when I get obsessed with something, I'm obsessed. And so understanding that we can become our own bank was the basis of that offer, and understanding how you can lend and borrow and stake and join liquidity pools and basically become the bank of different decentralized exchanges. And I went to the model I knew, which was, it wasn't high ticket. It was like a $2,500 offer. And I was like, let's just try this.
Right.
There was a lot of interest in it. I think we got our first 8 clients in, and their minds were being blown, but I had the same feeling at the end of the day of like, they're not going to get this in just 8 weeks. I'd love to work with these people for like 12 months, but I know most of these people won't want 20 grand, nor do I want to charge that. So the first 2 runs of it, which we launched it 2 times over, was that. So it was kind of like a mid-ticket offer, and I was tricking myself being like, well, we're not charging 8 grand. 2,500 bucks feels better. Realized it's still not
Mm.
it. I was still facing the same pains. And then I started surveying the maybe 18 clients that we got through and asking them if we had some sort of, like, would you like to keep working together if we had something for like 100 bucks a month? They all said yes. And that's where the idea really started clicking. Made the mistake most high ticket people do, is I just turned my high ticket program into a membership and was frustrated because people were leaving 2 months later because they were just going through the program as if it was a program. That's when I started really studying what makes a community stick together. And I have this one. I don't know if you know who Michael Beckwith is. Michael Beckwith. He's
Right.
a kind of a spiritual teacher, black dude. Used to have dreads, now his head
Yeah.
shaved. He's got this community um, in near Rodeo Drive there in not Malibu, but whatever, in LA. And I remember going there maybe 8 years ago, and I, I was born Catholic, but I'm kind of like I love spirituality and all religions. I'm for it all. So I'm not
Yeah.
like a Christian per se or any sort of denomination. But I went in, and the way they made me feel as part of something bigger. 8 years later, I still attend their Sunday things. It's virtual. If I'm ever in LA, I'll make sure that I schedule all my flights around it so I can join the service on Sundays. And I just kind of started thinking, I'm
Right.
like, how could we build that around a cause and around a mission and make people feel like they're part of something and make it less focused on the result, which is still important, and understand that in a community, yeah, results are important, absolutely. Resources are important, absolutely. But the community and the family, and just sort of committed to figuring that out, which was difficult because as entrepreneurs, sometimes we're sort of lone wolves. And typically, when I'm in a community, I'm the guy on the outskirts, just kind of like I'm too smart for everything. And so, learning how to overcome that
Right.
was a great journey for me, but also how do we facilitate that? And now we're starting in person meetups, like people fly in and meet up. And I'm just like, this is, I think, what I've always wanted. Just didn't, high ticket was churn, typically churning clients out. And some would stay for you a long time, of course, and build long term relationships. Most didn't. Flaw of my own model. But yeah, I think that hopefully that makes sense. So, first two versions, mid ticket, third version, membership, but it was like a step by step high ticket offer made into a monthly payment. And I was frustrated
Right.
because we're giving so much and you soon get resentful of your members. And that's when maybe 3 months after that, I'm like, let's find a better way, redesigned everything. And that's when that churn went down from like ridiculous churn to like 10% or less. And members started staying, members started bringing people in, and the family community vibe was built. And that's when it started growing quick.
Okay, cool. So that's super interesting. I've got personal
Yeah.
questions around this, right? So one of the things, and I don't know when the people watching this will watch this, but on the 20th of September, this is an issue that we have currently. What I did is exactly what you just said. We had our core program, our high ticket program, and I had the same thing. I watched Alex Hormozzi's
Yep.
webinar just a few months ago, and I was like, man, the money's one thing, but I just exactly what you were saying. I'm not feeling hyped by the
Yep.
impact that I'm creating at all. Like there's something missing. I don't like get up. I'm not psyched about this
Yep.
anymore. I'm not like and it makes me think to the happiest I've ever been was in when I was like 25, so maybe 7 years ago. I launched this thing for fun, which is called Reach for the Bars, which was a body transformation competition. But without getting into complications of it, it was effectively a community based
Mm-hmm.
fitness program. And I was like
Mm-hmm.
getting up and I was fired up in the morning, but it just wasn't about
Mm-hmm.
money. So, but what I did recently, and this is the mistake I've made, and we need to talk about this clearly because I think a lot of people are making this mistake, is turn your high ticket program into a community. And we saw exactly this, right? The perceived value on the way in is really high, right? We're going to get this program that was previously
Mm-hmm.
10K to join with the VIP one-on-one people, whatever, and now is like $49 a month. Let's just go in and do it. People go in, don't take action,
Mm-hmm.
immediately churn. And you're right. The feeling that I experienced, and lots of people watching this that have either converted their high ticket offer into a membership or that are thinking about doing that, it doesn't feel great when you're like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
giving you everything. Why won't
Mm-hmm.
you stay?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Totally.
So I'd love to hear about that, the transformation, and you don't have to give away secrets
No,
or anything like
all of
that,
it.
but
I'm such an open book.
the fantastic. So the model difference between a step by step program to creating a family community vibe, how do you engineer that to make that actually
Awesome.
happen?
I'll say one really quick thing on the Hermosis and the and yourself and anyone else that people may look
Yeah.
up to. So your audience obviously looks at you, and I love your transparency of like, hey, this is a problem we're having currently. I used to idolize all the people who I felt had it figured out. And then once I sort of started making money and reinvesting it and joining masterminds and getting around these people, when I got to know a lot of, I don't know Hermosi personally, but I would guess that he's still figuring it out as well. And from a business
Of
perspective,
course.
we position certain things. And I think we started copying, and I copied, not copied, I modeled so many people's businesses because I was like, oh, they have it figured out. And I, again, not to come back to this topic, but I stopped trusting God or my intuition or my inner knowing, my inner wisdom. And every time I did that, which was most of the time, I felt unaligned, uninspired, and beat up. And every time I've just said,
Mm.
"What feels right?" just to make it simple, just like we had an issue yesterday, and I got the team together and I was like, let's just do the right thing. What feels right?" And once we discovered that, it's like shoulders drop. This is the right thing to do. This is what feels right. Let's do that. And no matter what anyone thinks or no matter what anyone else thinks, and I think we so often hijack our internal guidance system or the whispers we get from the universe or whatever you believe, listening to people like maybe you're listening to this podcast and it's like some things will land, some things won't. Do it your way because
Right.
Hermosi is successful because at some point he said, F it, I'm going to do it my way. And he, if you could
Hmm.
see, he's not, you know how the influencers were kind of huddled together and create little packs, which I think is awesome,
He's
like
not in
great for
there.
them. But then there's some people who just say, F it, I'm going to do it my way. And I don't really need you guys. I'm not gonna like I'm gonna do it my way, and it's gonna be unique. And Hermosi has a very unique way of delivery, and he's really authentic. And so that is his key to success. Everything else is secondary. And if I and
Sure.
you and everyone listening can do that, you'll find your tribe. So just wanted to mention that. And I love your transparency, and I try to do the same. Of like, here's all the mistakes I made. Here's how I effed up, and and I'm still figuring stuff out. Just so people know.
Absolutely. Yeah. But that's how you can now even have this conversation because you've been through the I've done that, that sucked, I
Right.
fixed it doing this. Right? That's
Totally.
how these kind of conversations happen.
Totally. And then reverse engineer community, I started thinking of honestly, I went actually down to LA and for 3 weeks I was in LA and I attended that community. It's called the Agape Center. And I was reverse engineering how they create like it's a day off for people on Sunday for most people, and they're getting people in there for 2.5 hours and giving money freely to be there and staying before and staying after and working for free and setting up the place and security and all this. And I'm like, why are people doing this? Obviously, they get some internal fulfillment. And I kind of started reverse engineering the service. And if anyone's ever attended, I highly recommend you do just to see how they do it, even if you're not religious or spiritual. There's a moment within the first 5 minutes, they have anyone out of town or anyone new stand up. They give them prayer and they give them good vibes and energy. And then they have anyone who's out of town, I believe, stay standing and they celebrate them even more for traveling this long distance. They make them feel like people are crying. They make them feel like a part of family because all human beings are struggling. Every single day, there's some stress or worry or anxiety. We have good days sometimes where the world is rosy, but most days we don't. Like we have some problem, and that's all people are looking for is like communities. So how they do that, and I know their intention is to obviously serve, but there's someone who engineered this for either Michael Beckwith or the Agape Center to make it into a business, of course. And then they, within 10 minutes or 12 minutes, they're reading their kind of creed, their company, basically their kind of mission, and it's super impactful and people are really connected to it. Every time they speak, they're asking for feedback. If you watch most preachers, I was listening to a sermon this morning by another preacher, and it was like, say, like say, I mean, amen is the biggest one, but you know what I mean? Like, hey, if that lands, say, you know, MRR, whatever,
Whatever it is, yeah.
MRR. And I kind of started reverse engineering it and I was like, okay, how do you make what you're doing a lifelong pursuit? Just like, let's just say in the spiritual realm, it's like there's always another level of how deep you can dive into yourself. It's not like this is the result we're going to get you. This is it.
Yeah.
How do you create the infinite game, basically? So for us, it's financial freedom, but it's so much more so than that. We have different buckets and different categories. So it's not just making money. It's you, we want members to play this game until they die and even be thinking after I die, how is my impact going to continue into my kids or into others, or whatever? Creating a sense of mission. So, what are we fighting for, and who is the bad guy? Super Russell Brunsonness, but the bad guys are obviously the banks and the
Mm.
government and
That's
the
what them.
systems and the 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 corporations and all that. And three, it's we turned all of our educational material because we still have courses but we didn't make that the central focus of it. We have education that we highly recommend people take, but we made it get through the education as fast as possible so you can actually get the real value of being able to join the community and having the conversation, the level of conversation we're having here. So it's all just community. And fourth was we gave so much because I came from the high ticket world, and someone told me, and I want to give credit, but I don't know who this is make it 30 minutes. So if you have a high ticket program, it's hours and hours of information and content and calls that you have to consume. But if you do that in a membership, members, if they don't grab it all and ingest it all, they'll feel like they're not taking full use of the fee. And so they leave, even though there's a ton of value. So we started saying, how could we communicate everything we need to communicate in 30 minutes or less? So if someone only has 30 minutes a week to make use of the value, it's $97 a month, which is still, you still see your credit card and you're like, am I actually getting value from this? How do we communicate
Yeah.
and give everything we need in 30 minutes? Now we have extra things that people can do and take. You can spend hours. And that was a big game changer as well. So instead of bombarding people with information, so for churn, one of the biggest reasons people leave, at least from my studies and my experience, is overwhelm. It's simply overwhelm. So how do we do it all in
Yeah.
30 minutes? Not only does that extend the game they can play, but it makes them feel like I took full use of this to the material I have to ingest and take. So, hey, just spend 20 minutes this week and study this one thing and then take this one action. That's it. Whereas in a high ticket, we want our clients to get results and we only have 3 months to get them that result. So sometimes we pack them with stuff and typically clients sometimes are even burnt out after a 3 or 6 month mastermind or program because they just went all in, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But the mentality for the membership was really different. I don't know if that helps.
That's incredible. So there's so many bits on that that for me personally, but I'm sure everyone listening as well, are really, really pertinent. I actually had someone message me. I did that Facebook post that you were tagged, and I was like, "Hey, we're
Yep.
experiencing this and this. Do you think it's a price issue? Do you think it's a value issue? Whatever's going on." And my theory at the time was the value that I'm giving is, in my opinion, high because it's the whole A to
Yep.
Z of all this stuff. Like how do I actually stack high ticket recurring revenue? You got the offer, the content, the lead gen,
Yep.
like the whole piece. And I was like, I'm giving you guys this whole play that we would normally charge a lot of money for, and you can just come into this community and everything else. And I had people message me and say, "Hey, firstly, I really appreciate that you're putting this stuff out there, and you're not just pretending that you're not struggling with this new model, but also the reason I didn't join was that there was
Sweet.
too much stuff." And I was like
Right.
mind blown because I was thinking about this as the creator, not as the
Yep.
person consuming.
Good.
And yeah, obviously, like you like join a $49 a month community or $100 a month, $200 a month, whatever it is, and you go in there and you're like,
Oh.
shit, I have 30 hours of
Yeah.
stuff to go through. There's no way I'm
Yeah.
going to start this.
Yeah. Chunking it down. I mean, we still, because I'm extremely creative and so is the team. And so we will get really excited. I've just now learned to say, let's just say no to this. Even in September, we did a no building month. We are not going to build anything new because we're such natural builders. So Colin's kind of the head guy in there, but it was like, let's not build anything. Let's delete and let's optimize and let's just be community centric. So no new trainings, no new classes, no new anything. Let's just be community centered and let's optimize for what we already have. And we also made a rule of no videos over 6 minutes. Some are 10, but typically we're like 6 minutes, no less. So someone can come back from work, watch a video, accomplish a task, go do their life, and not sit through a 45-minute masterclass or something or training. And so our
Sure.
retention has decreased this month, and we went from I don't know 3 or 4% weekly growth to last week was 12. This week will probably be more like 8. We do our KPIs on Thursdays. Um, Too early to tell if that's exactly what happened and why, but it's a pretty quick, like, leading and lagging indicator. Like, we did that, and all of a sudden,
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
things are moving even faster, and we're giving um, less
Yeah.
information and
I
more
think
community and
it's
more, like, support, like, just more hanging out and leading the community.
right. This is it. And again, like a personal light bulb went off when like the focus isn't content like it is
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah,
most
yeah,
high ticket programs,
for
right? Because
sure.
people, are like, I've just dropped 10K on something. I better
Yeah,
get access to some cool
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
It's like the focus is actually on, it's almost a low ticket masterminding sort of situation, right? The like community comes together, we're all engaging with each other. It's not
yeah.
high level in that same way, but it's we're all
That's
on the
good.
same mission, we're all moving
That
forwards,
on that,
right?
also, I guess a little light bulb went off for me is my ego fought it because when we did high ticket stuff, I was kind of the OG. Like if I was speaking or we did an event, it was like everyone was there to see me, and at least that's how I felt, and that's how it felt good. Like oh, all these people came together. I'm the center of attention. I'm going to teach my highest level shit, and people are going to think I'm a genius.
Hmm.
Um, and when it came to the membership, I realized the more I led and the more I showed up as like the leader and the dude, A, the more pressure I felt to constantly keep showing up, and two, the less engagement there was in the community because people they just kind of fell into line of like, oh, I guess we'll just follow this leader. I left for LA for 3 weeks, but then I had a mastermind. I was basically gone for almost 6 weeks. I was in Mexico on a motorcycle, blah, blah, blah. Every night I was falling asleep stressed, being like, we probably lost all our members because Lucas isn't there. I'd log in the morning and the community was booming more than when I was there. And a week or two later, I'm like, all our members are probably going to leave us because I literally haven't showed up in 2 weeks barely. And we have a great leadership team in there, anyways. But I'd go in there, and members now were sharing projects, we're sharing ideas, we're sharing lessons. And now we have a rule of like, if we can't get 2 or 3 wins into our Slack channel, we have a client win Slack channel, we're doing something wrong. And so now every morning I get to wake up, and Colin's got some screenshots of wins, community helping each other. We created a prize every month. We give away $1,000 total a month, but one of the prizes is for a community leader. So who like stepped up and helped the most. And it was just, it's not about me. And that's when, and I'm still working on leadership skills because I know that's my next level of life, but it's not about me. And I thought leadership was Lucas is the dude. And it's not. It's like, how do we build a community of a bunch of leaders? And I think that's a better reflection of true leadership, which comes with humility after you get hit in the face multiple times. And so that, and I'd love to, our next level, I think, would be like community, like picking 10 people from the community that just show up as leaders and they don't get paid for this right now, but like incentivizing them with just getting them part of the team, not in terms of we have to manage them or not in terms of there's anything structured, but even if they're getting a little bit pay every month, like a little bonus or something, and two, just being
Right.
part of our team, like some conversations could explode their leadership in life and in how they show up in our community. But yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So, and it takes the pressure of having to always have all the answers and show up and be, the man or the woman, so to speak.
Right. It's so interesting because it's a
Yeah.
complete flip of what we're all used to. And when I say we all, I'm speaking mostly for people who've been in the high ticket coaching slash consultancy game, or even
Yep.
agencies, because you end up
Yep.
consulting anyway, unless you have a team. Like it's really all about people are coming for information, and you, the head of it all, you give
Yep.
away the information, right? So you're right, really interesting dynamic where being at the top of a seat obviously feels really, really good, right? You're being validated, the power's being validated, your knowledge, all the blood, sweat, and tears, all that's being validated. But you're right that from a community standpoint, it actually doesn't create the environment that
Yep.
we want, because most of it, and this is just me kind of thinking about communities that I've been in the past. I was in a program called the Wake
Yep.
Up Warrior for a while, which you
Yep.
may or may not.
Garrett.
And that was my first
Yep.
experience. Yeah, Garrett J. White. And that was my first experience of, yes, Garrett was on the calls and stuff, but the
That's
value
right.
wasn't that. The value was the
Yep.
brotherhood that was created. It was really hard to leave. Like I had to I left and then I came back, and still now I think about it every now and then.
Yeah,
I'm like,
that's it.
maybe I should join Wake Up
That's it. That's
again.
it. And I think with the point of validation, I think it feels good for a while, and then you start there can be I met a lot of people, and I was this for a while, where I had a complex of thinking I was the man because so many people were telling me I was. And starting to ignore all my flaws. And that creates some internal tension that leads to cancers and sicknesses. And I did get sick. Um, but Mike Tyson had this thing. He was on a podcast, and I don't really know much about him, but it was apparently the dude's really, really brilliant. You wouldn't think he is, but apparently he's a really, really smart guy. And he was like, when I thought I was, so someone asked him, you get a lot of haters or you get a lot of hate online sometimes. Like people love you, but a lot of people don't. How do you deal with that? And he's like, when I think I'm the man, I get offended by it. I get really mad. When I remember I'm nobody, then it really doesn't bother me. And I remember hearing that and I was like, Lucas, your ego has gotten A, out of control. Great, you're making money, you've accomplished all these things, but you're getting, if somebody challenges you, you're literally taking it personally and then you're getting offensive and your blood pressure spikes and you're kicking people out. And it's just like, who, like, you literally have become the person that you said you'd never be. Um, and so the community was a blessing because it
Mm.
literally allows you, and running a membership for me allowed me to just kind of step away from the limelight, start investigating like what's this next level of evolution for myself because we're all evolving, we're all humans. And 3 was it's like the kings had the gesture of like you're nothing, you're gonna die, every empire falls, every king you only have, whatever. It was like, and now I feel when I jump into the community, I literally feel like I'm just part of the community. Sometimes I even learn stuff from someone and I'm like, holy crap, that's wicked. And then my only job is to lead the community in terms of incentivizing the actions we
You're
want
the host.
and basically incentivizing the actions we want. This is the best way I know how to explain it. We try and show up, and when someone is sharing or when someone's winning or when someone's leading, we put the spotlight on them or put the spotlight on the winner and put the spotlight on, someone who's taken the actions that we want the community taking, which reinforces it and creates more of it. And we want to get to 10 wins a day because then I would take 10 wins. It makes me feel good in the morning when I see members killing it. But for our marketing, it's just like I will overwhelm you
Marketing is
with testimonials every day. That's the goal. Best kind of
right.
marketing to just,
Yeah.
you mentioned our sales page is good. I wrote that over a night because I was just going to launch this thing. I do have a background in copy, but I think like every week we add 3 or so testimonials that we think really, really reflect. And I'm like, I think the best sales page is the one that's littered with just like,
Just
and then some
testimonials.
copy, of course,
Sure.
but like it's just like, yo, this is why you should join. And it's like, oh, okay, well, people are winning because I can say whatever I want and I can get creative and persuasive and whatever. A membership offer also forced us to, we don't lock people in. So, and I wanted it that way. We do have a 6-month option, but forced us to, we know anyone can leave at any moment and they get dinged. We have 400 members, over 400 now. So like 400 divided by 30. Every day there's 10, 12, 13 credit cards getting dinged and people are seeing it on their credit card statement and they can leave at any moment. No longer do we have a 6-month mastermind where I can get a little lazy. It's like, it's community and it's members. And if we don't do our job, which I think is the way it should be, just like doctors, they should get paid if they
Yeah.
keep you well, not when you're sick. If that was reversed, then doctors would actually pick up the phone and actually be attentive and actually deal with their patients because that's the way they get paid. Now to
Right.
us, I'm like, I don't get paid if members don't get results. And I think that's very fair.
Right. It's very fair, and it completely shifts the way you
Yep.
look at business too, right? Because you're no longer thinking even in terms of like cash
Yep.
spikes, as in, okay, cool, we're going to launch a new high ticket program. We want to do a 100K launch, knowing it's going to be pretty barren for the
Yep.
next 3 months
Yep.
afterwards, right? When we're now playing a game that's different. I interviewed Rob Bailey, so
Very cool.
shout out to him. He was like the first person to jump on my podcast ever. But he said something that really stuck with me, and I think that it's just worth reiterating. He said, if you can grow your monthly recurring revenue by $1,000 a month and
Yeah.
just do that for the next 5 years,
100%.
like the input doesn't change, but your life drastically
100%.
changes.
I don't know he was
And
in
I was like,
memberships and all that, but uh dude, 100%. I I remember we got our first few members or whatever, and I was working a lot in it, and I was pissed because I was like, I could have just sold one high ticket program for 12 grand. My money stuff was flaring up, my insecurity around money at the end of the day. And someone's like, well, how long do you think your average member is going to stay with you? I'm like, well, we're shooting for 6 months right now. So you made 5 grand times six. You really made 30 grand. Like you'll have some churn. And that's when I was like, oh,
Yep.
so every 10 members we get is not 1,000. Our retention point is like 10 months right now. So it's not 1,000. It's actually 10,000. And if I can grow it by, like Rob Bailey was saying, $1,000 a week or $1,000 a month, and if we can do that consistently, that the compound interest on that is very, very real. And so that I had to change my marker of my expectations, and that's that. It's like it's a retention game, it's decreasing churn, it's obviously bringing new members in, but if I can decrease my churn and serve the community, they bring people in, and it's almost like, it's a longer game you're playing, I think. For we somehow
For
grew really
sure.
quick, and I don't know why we did, but we did. But even if we didn't, and you were just growing by 10% or 5% a month, or even 2% a month, you made 10 grand, now and you just keep stacking that. Yeah. And mid and high ticket offers, like our
Yeah.
community started asking us, I love this. Can I get more time with you? And I was like, well, I could charge a grand an hour for like a call. And I was like, I don't think that's going to serve them. And we built an 8 week, now it's a 12-week container. And it's only for members who've been with
Right.
us. And we just refund them all their months that they were with us. So if they've been with us for not all, but up to 3 now. But if they've been with us for 3 months, we just credit 3 months of membership fees into the program. And the
Right.
clients have been amazing to work with because they've all built a relationship and they all understand our philosophy and our way of doing things, and they all already got some results. And so the relationship is very different than closing. We don't do sales calls anymore, but closing someone on a call. And I think a lot of the closing stuff, we actually lie to ourselves and like it's for the client, it's for the client. But if you actually really make a list of all the clients you've closed and ask them, if money wasn't an objective, would you have worked with that client? You may not like the answer, but we're humans, so we make mistakes. That's okay. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do
Yeah.
tomorrow?
No, for sure. Okay, so let me ask you a question. Talk to me a little bit about lifestyle difference or just happiness, whatever, in the effect that the different profit margins. Right, I'm going to make assumptions, but I assume that the profit margin on the membership style offer is higher than it was on the high ticket side, just because you just said you
Yep.
weren't doing sales teams anymore. So okay, so you don't need closers, you don't need all that stuff. So how do those two compare, even from a profitability standpoint, as models?
Yeah, I don't mind paying the costs up front. So we did have a too big of a team at first, and I was okay with it because I had a vision for what the business was going to be. So to me, when I look at someone asked that, they're like, you have pretty high expenses for what you're earning right now. And I was like, yeah, but I know where we're going to be. And so even if happened, oh, there we go. Even if we were losing 10 grand, which we weren't, but even if we're losing 10 grand a month to build the right team, I know we're gonna have 1,000 members, and with it'll be 150, $180,000 a month business. One good month pays for 2 years of eating crap. So I'd say our margins are healthier now at 350, 400 members, and they'll keep getting healthier because we literally have the team to take us to 700 members now. When we were at 100 and
Right.
150 members, I'd say the margins were break even. Like I was paying myself and we were just reinvesting. So, um, but if you were building it lean and I could have ran it by myself. I just didn't want to. If you were running it by yourself, then
That's fair
obviously
enough.
your margins would be super healthy. You just got to find the point there's going to be a point. So if you have 10 members, your life is going to suck. But if you have vision and at 80 members at whatever price point, or 20 members or 100 members, that's when the tables start turning in your favor. You just have to keep that goal alive in your head. Whereas in a high ticket space,
Right.
if you're charging 8 grand one client and it's just yourself, you have pretty healthy margin right off the bat. Memberships, you got to remember you still have to get paid and you might have a few months that are a little bit leaner. But And I remember
Right.
experience in my first business. I remember I was building a team and I was paying them more. I was going through P&Ls from 6 years ago, and I was paying myself 2 grand a month. And the team, some team members were making 5, 6 grand a month. And then I remember when we hit 100K months, and I think we were at like 70% margin, and I was giving myself a $50,000 bonus every single month, and I felt good about it because I'm like, oh, that pays for that whole year. Oh, 1 month pays for that whole year, and I'm like, that's when I realized if
Right.
you just play the longer game and you believe in yourself, the payout. It's like that whole what counting pennies and stepping over dollars or whatever that saying is like I really don't
Right. Right.
care
Right.
about a couple grand here and there. I know the outcome of what we're building. So I don't know if that helps, but it just
Yeah.
depends on how someone's building their business. If you're starting solo,
Different model,
keep
right?
it
No.
lean. If you want to grow faster, build
Yeah.
a team, get a VA right off the bat to have them so you can focus on your zone of genius and you'll grow so much faster. And then in terms of lifestyle, I used to be really stressed on the first of every month because we had a thermometer that the sales team would fill in to hit their target. And then every month
Right.
it was back to nil. Some recurring payments that we'd shadow in,
Reset.
but they weren't guaranteed, of course, like some payment plans. And then it was just that grind. And now I'd say I still have a stress, which is a good stress, is are we doing enough for the community? And so that triggers me into stress sometimes. Like, are we doing enough? Because all these people could leave at any moment. But I think that's a fair. I'd rather have that stress because it's a little more service focused and it feels better. Like it's a good motivator than are we going to make enough money to pay everyone this month, or you know,
Well, this
do
is
we
it.
have enough
Yeah.
leads? What do we got to do?
Yeah. I mean, if you think about, for sure, if you, I mean, certainly from my life, financial stress is some of the worst stress that I've ever
Yeah.
experienced. Just like if you have members of staff and you're like, oh, my payroll is looking really bad. Like I'm genuinely worried because now you're not only responsible for yourself, you're responsible
Yep.
for them. And that's just a game that's really hard to play. But let me ask you a question. I think there's going to be a good chunk of people watching, and this includes me, who do have all these resources that they've made. They do have all these high ticket programs. They're aligning a lot with everything that we're
Yep.
speaking about, right? The recurrent revenue. And I made a post, maybe it's like 6 months ago, 9 months ago, where I said, I would rather have a job that pays me a reasonable amount of money, call it 10 to 12K a month, than run a high stress 50K a month
Yep.
business, like for sure. And this type of model is more along the lines of we're playing the long term game. But the question is, okay, you have all these resources, you've created all this stuff. How do you convert that into a community that isn't overwhelming? Like, do you choose a specific transformation within it? Are you segmenting via topics? Like, what's the kind of magic to make that happen?
I don't have an answer. I could just share thoughts. As we redesigned and retransformed everything because it didn't fit. Like videos were 40 minutes long, workbooks were, you know, long, and I'm like, none of this fits. And so how much will it actually cost me in time and energy to just redesign this thing? And it actually wasn't in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we had everything rebuilt into more of a model that works. I know some people just package all that stuff up and sell it as just like a course or sell it as something that people can have. But I'm like, I guess it's a sunk cost fallacy, isn't it? Is you've put all that time and energy into building something, and now, and I've felt that many times, I guess, but sometimes I've had to just walk away from it and rebuild. And what I built was so much better than everything I've built. But I understand from someone's business mind is like, well, how can I still monetize and all that stuff? Um, I don't know. I don't know if you could transform it into. I guess it just depends on what your portal and how it's built. Because seen people do that. They had a high ticket
Right.
mastermind. They had 18 sort of bundles in Kajabi, and they were really deep. And they were like, you know what, we'll just do a membership. And I just haven't seen anyone do that successfully. Um, People would just stay, grab some stuff, and then leave. Of course, maybe you have the community. You just don't want to fall into the trap of making it curriculum based. So you want people to get, in my
Right.
mind, you want to get people through the curriculum as fast as possible so they can be at the same language that the community is at. They can speak the same language. and
Mm.
not be bogged down in the um, learning. I mean, just to be honest, if you look at your stats of if you have stats for your programs, like this number is very low of people who get through the first module. Like it's very low. In a book, I'm guilty of this. I'm looking at like 7 books and I'm like, I cracked the page on some of them, but I didn't really read them. And then there's one that I'm really obsessed with, so I'm reading it. Like we don't finish books. And so to me, I'm like, I don't think it's the information in this day and age that people want because it's all readily available and most people already know all that crap anyway. It's literally less about that. And I know it's kind of a mind F because we get so used to creating these beautiful frameworks and we think, all this really awesome stuff. But just to be clear, AI now can dig up anything for you that's worth more
Yeah.
than paying
Yeah.
for it. So people are overwhelmed with information, literally overwhelmed. And yeah, I think it's just less about the information. So I don't know how to successfully do it. I haven't figured that one out. Maybe there's a way. Maybe someone else
No,
knows
I
a
think
way.
you've yeah, I think you've touched on some really good stuff. I think the way that as you're speaking about it, and I've had this thought before, that the value is not in the information, it's in the results of the
Yeah,
execution, right? So it's like as long as we're all aligned and we're all on a mission to do the thing together, that's what really creates community, and that's what makes people want us to
moving
stick around. I mean,
forward
speaking
and
about
like,
this reach for the
yeah,
bars that I did before, like we all knew the same stuff. Like, yeah, we were teaching them some things, but the actual community, they're just taking this back to the fitness space, because it's a really obvious one that I think everyone will understand. The community isn't built around counting calories. It's about sharing what you eat every
right.
day. It's about sharing how many steps you've taken today. It's about filming your
Yeah,
workout and putting it in there and everyone cheering you on. Like, that's what
yeah,
community is. It's not the information that creates it. It's the sharing of
100%.
the action itself.
Yeah,
The
100%. I
thing.
think of all the courses that are sitting on my hard drive and all the stuff I've bought, and I'm a high level executor. Like I don't mess around. Like most of us are. Like I'd say not to sound like entrepreneurs have a level of execution that goes beyond what a lot of people can even fathom. So, even with that personality and that trait, I still don't finish everything I start, especially if it's not in my zone of genius. I just hired a health coach because I'm healthy and I work out and my body is I don't know, probably the best it's ever been. Like with my workouts, I got an at home sauna, at home cold plunge, at home gym. I know that the quality of food I'm eating sometimes is that's what I want to optimize for, like what's actually in my food and really optimize for not macros anymore, but optimize for I'm getting 5 different blood tests and they're really measuring, I don't know, all this crazy stuff. And she's going to help
Right.
me get clear on the types of food that give me vitality, anti-aging, anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory. And I want to optimize for that because I want to feel like I was when I was 20. For a year, I've been trying to do it alone,
Mm.
reading all the books, and I'm not being held accountable and I'm having a hard time with it. And because it's not my zone of genius. And so I find someone who can help me execute on it and the community that can be supportive of my goal. And so I just think like I think as entrepreneurs, I lost maybe this is what I'm trying to say. I lost empathy for people. Just effing do it. Who cares how you feel? Just do it. Like that's kind of
Mm.
sometimes the drive it takes to start something. Like stop being a wuss. Like just do it. Don't you want this? Like clearly your calendar and your results are showing me you don't want this. And I don't think that's actually
Right.
true because human beings are so freaking complex. In community, I think can create that space for people to feel safer and struggle through something. Like and so that to me was
And shareable
and when I look
too.
in the mirror, I'm like, you know what? Like I've covered up so many insecurities and so many with this rah, like if it's to be, it's up to me. But there's I think the next level of living an abundant life is like it's if it happens to me, I mean, this is basic stuff, but it happens to me. I'm a victim. Everything's happening to me. That's most people's stage. Stage two is it happens by me. So, like, if it's to be, it's up to me. I can do it, blah, blah, blah. And the third stage is like it happens through me. Like, there's something literally moving through you. The greatest operate at that level. And it's not always about all that warrior energy, which I possess a lot of. So I think community and just like people are struggling and people are going through crap. And sometimes they don't want to do the work and go through the modules and go through the course. They need 2 weeks or 3 weeks to breathe, and the community can support them. And they're not weak for it. And they're not, you obviously don't want it and blah, blah, blah. But in the high ticket space, we kind of, I can't say I got a little lost some empathy. Like you want it or you don't. Take the actions. You
Mm,
paid for it. What's wrong with you type thing. And that was just a
yeah.
reflection of how I was treating myself. So, dude, I think the power is in the community. I think anyone who can learn how to build community, whether you're monetizing it or not, will pay off. And I think of Michael Beckwith's thing. I'm just bringing it up because it's on my mind. Is like we only get about 25 minutes of content from him or his congregation a week, and the content is stuff I already know. It just lands and hits and gives you a little inspiration and a little push out the door on a Sunday to be more empathetic, to be a better person, to live more in your values. And if you fail by Wednesday, Thursday, you know that by Sunday you'll get picked up again. And they've got little things during the week if you need extra support or substance abuse or physical abuse or you're having a hard time with your kids. Like there's support groups to help you through that. But there's not like
Right.
that much content. Imagine just being given the Bible or some book and being like, study all of this in the next 3 months. They read
Right.
they read like 3 paragraphs a week and they digest that and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
learn to live it, not just learn it. And so yeah, I really like the model.
I
I don't
think,
know. I love the model.
yeah. No, I was going to say that I think that sentence possibly summarizes everything that we've been trying to put our finger on here for 40 minutes is um, try to live it, don't just try to learn it. That is possibly
That
the
might be the
secret
secret
sauce,
sauce.
right? Like that's the concept that that brings down churn because if you're trying to live it, well, that's a
Yep.
never-ending journey, right? Um, it's changing who you are fundamentally at your core, but also it changes everyone else around you. So you're all elevating together. You're all having the same. You're facing the
Yep.
same issues, the same discussions, the same wins. That
Yep.
creates community. And learning is so short term. How many things have all of us, you and me and everyone listening to this, how many things have we dived in
Totally.
for? We went in hardcore for 6 days. We learned a lot of stuff, and then we were like, God, I'm so tired. Now I can go
Totally.
back to being who I was before, right? And that's then churn,
Yeah.
right? Because it
Yep.
goes,
Yep.
I've kind of done it. I've like gone through the like offer
Yep.
presentation bit. The rest of it, I'm just not feeling it. Why would I
Yep.
carry on paying?
So
I'm
good.
out.
Yeah, I think you
It's interesting.
nailed it. I think I haven't been the warrior. I do like Garrett's stuff, but the way of the warrior, whatever. I'm guessing that they probably do a good job of everything you just summed up there, and that's why people stay and you miss them.
Yeah, the whole concept is about being who you need to be to live the
Right.
life that you want to live, right? And just I was touching on something that you spoke about earlier. Like when I noticed that like people that are all rah rah rah, a lot of them are playing. I don't want to say a lesser game because they're people that are far beyond my level and stuff. But the impression I get when speaking to them versus someone who's at a high level but is very calm, I'm like, that's the master. It's not the one that's all
Right.
rah rah rah. It's the one that's achieved it and they have a grace with it as well. And they're probably the ones who are really great community
Right.
builders as well, right? Because they're the ones who are within themselves. It's not all about my
Right.
opinion and my ego and
Right.
everything that I think. It's about uplifting
Yeah,
everyone
it's
else.
a tough one.
Let
I
me
think
ask you
we're all
something.
because I can see myself
Yeah,
in still things like that. Like I'll catch myself raw and just masculine as feminine energy. And I think when I look at a warrior
yeah,
and they're just that's literally they were designed on this planet to do one thing and one thing only, and that's be a warrior. They're much needed in society. And so they produce that content that's like F you, Rob Bailey type stuff. And I'm sure he's a super calm dude, but I mean I love some of the energy around some of that
yeah,
stuff. And then there's others who are the Sadhgurus or the like the sages, and that's what their purpose
yeah,
here
yeah.
is. And I think knowing which cup you have to fill is and trusting your inner because they're all right. Like shut up and get it done is
Yeah.
right at times. Or hey, take care of yourself and like go away and be with nature for the day is right. applied at the right time with the right leverage and the right lever. And I think we need to
Right.
know what we need. Like this week, I'm going camping to. You see those ads for that? They're all over the place. They build homesteads on land. Their ads are all over the place.
Hmm.
Um, 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago, I started getting a vision downloaded of like I think it's time to take the community to the next level and possibly get some land, 80, 100 acres, and build not only our ranch and our house, but like start building a community. So the vision was kind of downloaded in my brain, and then I saw their ads, so I bought their stuff and I went through it all. Then I learned they only live 6 hours from me, so I reached out to them, and then I learned they have a 4 day sort of come out to our land and we'll teach you everything that we've ever learned about this. So I'm going out there Friday. Um, and my point is the community they built through doing it through land. So they have 4,000 people in their community and they help people buy land and build homesteads
Wow.
and build Airbnbs and all this all around the world. And I'm in their community. And I think if you could do that, whether it's a digital business or in person, or you're building a
Yeah.
healing center. I have a friend who built one in Costa Rica. I'm like, that's cool. And then know what levers to apply. So these dudes are super chill. They're like, yo, whatever. They're right. And their energy works for them because they know who they are. But then there's a raw people who you need that energy at times. And so just know what you need at what time and apply the right lever.
Yeah.
And the mind will play
Yeah.
tricks on you, man. Because I sometimes question myself. I'm taking the day off, but am I being weak because of it? Should I actually be pushing through it? Because that's what they told me. But they tell me you should just like relax. And Joe Dispenza, I went to his week-long seminar, and it's
Mm.
just like I can leave my body when I want to now in some deepest meditations. And I'm like, should I be doing that, or should I be? When do you fight? When do you not? And I think the more we learn
Yeah.
about ourselves and trust our intuition of like, no, Lucas, like it's time to rest for these 4 days. Go camping and take time for yourself.
Right.
So it's not. I don't have the answers. It's
That's
not easy,
cool.
but have a vision. Have a
No,
vision
it
for what you
isn't.
want to build. You'll figure it out.
For sure. I love that. I'm gonna ask you some questions about where we can find you, where we can work with you, how we can join communities and stuff in a sec. I just want there's a thought that came up for me, which was it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a
Totally.
war, right? So the
Yeah,
like notion of the
that's good.
capacity for action, call it warrior, right? Like the capacity to be able to get stuff done when you have to do it, because life gets
Yeah,
really tough sometimes, right? And sometimes it's going to require just an immense amount of willpower to push through
agreed.
whatever's going on. That's the like warrior side of things. But then that ability gives you
Yeah,
confidence to be calm. I think
that's
that's
good.
like the way
That's
that
really
that
good.
I think about
Yeah,
it.
that's a good way to put it.
Cool. Cool. So, for people listening, where can we find you? What are you working on now? How can we join you? I'm one of these people too, but I know there's a ton of people that are thinking about, well, how can I have Lucas help me with building out my own membership community, all this stuff? How does one move
Yeah,
forward,
we're
stuff like
we're
that?
playing with it. We started getting people asking us that question, and I didn't know the answer. So at first, we were having them join Crypto Labs. So they joined as a member, even if they weren't interested in DeFi and crypto. But I was asking them to like go through things. We were working with them on a one-on-one basis. We were super selective of who we're working with. 98% of my
Mm.
focus is on Crypto Labs research. Like that is it's 1,000 members. Um, so that's kind of like my main focus. We have been playing with a
Yep.
program we're calling MDM. We took our first 6 clients and we've been working with them, just trying to figure out, is this actually something we want to do? So right now, we're not really promoting much of that. Um, I think through running Crypto Labs and through running the membership, we're creating our own frameworks of like what actually works. This podcast has been helpful for me because it lets me think through things. Sometimes you can do
Awesome.
something, but you don't know exactly how to communicate it clearly. So our main focus is crypto labs. We have had people join who on the intake form is like, I'm not really into crypto, but I really want to learn how you built this because I want to model it for my fitness or my whatever. I'm always happy when I see that. Um, but if you were super serious and interested in building a membership and you have income, it's to me it's difficult. I did work with someone 3 months ago. They wanted to build a membership. They were super gung ho on it, but they've never worked with a client before. And it gets a little, I think, tricky because in a membership, you kind of have to. I don't think maybe you haven't had to be a coach, so to speak, but you have experience in your topic and maybe you've worked corporate or you've worked with kids for the last 15 years as a teacher and you're like, I really know moms or parents and I really want to build something for them, different. But if it's just the idea of I want to build a membership for recurring revenue so I could make some awesome money and you don't really know like the fundamental problem you're solving, then I think courses and books or low ticket offers to learn that stuff is going to be way more beneficial. But if it's I'm running this thing and I'm hating it and I'm so done with it and I want to build something new and I'm making 50 grand or 40 grand, we have worked with some people at that caliber. And I think those people can get wicked results if they can shift their mindset away from I'm just going to turn my high ticket into a membership. You're gonna lose. So everything can be kind of found on lucasrubix.com. Most of it points to Crypto Labs. We kind of stepped away from the entrepreneurship stuff for a while, a year and a half, but
Yep.
people keep coming up asking me. And I when we started talking, I mentioned one thing and someone told me this maybe 5 years ago and I didn't listen. And I'm gonna mess it up on how they told me it, but it was something along the lines of, you're onto something when it's when people are banging on your door, like, asking, and I think a lot of us build offers and we're fighting. This might have been Jason Capital because I was part of his thing once upon a time. Maybe it was him or someone on his team, but we're trying to launch something in a saturated space because we love it, and all these other people, just to be fair, have more money, more audience, more authority, bigger lawyers, more momentum, and I love a lot of things in life, but I won't turn everything into a business. And I've pushed offers and pushed and pushed and pushed my marketing for stuff before, and you get minimal results for your efforts. But if you stay curious and you're like, when I launched Crypto Labs, it was like instant. Like my marketing was bad, dude. And the emails were like quickly written because I was traveling Mexico. And it's like people just were banging on my door. I want to
Mm,
sign up. And I was like, this is how it feels to have something actually in demand. And so with
right.
the entrepreneurship stuff, I just kind of stepped out because it was so saturated. And I was kind of like, wherever this goes, it goes. And now that people are banging on my door for it, I'm kind of like, maybe there's something here. If it feels aligned with us, let's play with it. We've probably worked with 10 clients on it. And I'm like, find that. Like, keep playing with stuff. Like, if you don't exactly know, like, whatever you're doing, even it's the sunk cost fallacy. If you've been doing it for 6 years and it's just not working and you're frustrated and there's so much competition for it, like, what would happen? Like, maybe there's something else out there for you to explore that all of a sudden Eric
Mm.
Thomas 8 years ago, I don't remember why I remember this, is like he was grinding. Eric Thomas is that hip hop preacher dude,
Yeah, yeah, motivational
wicked.
speaker.
And
Yeah.
he's like, I was doing this here, nobody cared. And then I just moved way over here and I was doing the same thing. And all of a sudden, everyone thought I was a genius. And he's like, I don't know exactly how he said it, but he's like, sometimes you just have to go to where you're wanted or needed. And I think about that of like we're just trying to do this one thing to this audience and we're stuck on it because we've invested 3 years in it. And maybe it's not a matter of pushing through, it's just taking your skills and talents and just moving over here into more of a blue ocean, not even from a marketing or a business perspective. It's just because there's a need there. And you
Right.
could get 300, 400 members and build a 40, $50,000 membership in 6, 7, 8 months. And I'm doing nothing different than I was grinding before. So I think you got to stay curious and stay open minded to the fact that, yeah, I don't think change is giving up or quitting. So I don't know. Maybe that helps.
I love that. That's awesome. Well, listen. So for anyone listening or watching, you can find the link to Lucas's socials and everything below this video. So go through that, check him out, check out his stuff. Really appreciate you jumping on it.
No, I appreciate you, dude. Good questions and good insights from you too.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.